Full circle moment, and it's actually ironic because Jets fans are the ones that are seeing ghosts now that Sam Darnold is headed to the Super Bowl with the Seattle Seahawks. Why weren't the Jets able to get this version of Sam while he was here? New York Post sports columnist Mark Cannizzaro is on to talk Sam Darnold. I guess, Mark, first, thanks for coming on. Again, football is a strange place. The NFL, you could be bad in one team, in one system, go on and have your glory days somewhere else. We've seen multiple quarterbacks do that. But let's go back to go forward. When did Sam Darnold really come onto your radar?
Well, I mean, Brandon, pretty much as the draft process neared, the Jets, as usual, are always looking for a quarterback. And so Sam was certainly up there. He had two really good years at USC. But again, I use the word, you use the word the two. Okay. So he's very inexperienced. So I saw similarities between he and Mark Sanchez, who the Jets had drafted, obviously in '09 out of USC, also a very, very young kid, very raw. Um, and so the Jets ended up, with that slot, taking him. I think the biggest mistake the Jets made, and it's not a second guess, really, it's a first guess because, you know, I felt right away when they brought him in and started him right away, I thought that was a mistake, and it turned out to be. But the problem with the Jets is they're always so, as they really stand right now, was they're so desperate for a franchise quarterback, and they're so just desperate to win that they're throwing they throw these guys in right away. Now it worked out with Sanchez because the Jets had an extraordinary defense back in '09 with Rex Ryan there. The Jets didn't have that kind of core, when Sam came aboard. I mean, there just wasn't a lot of talent around him, and this was not a guy after 2 years of college that was going to come in and light it up. And quite frankly, they really really stunted his career. And you know the bottom line is, as we move forward and you look at the arc of his career, as Sam has gotten with teams with talent, the last 2 years, for example. I mean, he was throwing the ball to Jefferson last year, right? And now he's got Jackson Smith and Nigbo now to throw the ball to. Those are two of the best receivers out there right now, right? So,
Yep.
not to mention the Seahawks have one of the best defenses in the league, this year. So, it's no accident. I mean, would we expect that he would have been 30-6 the last 2 years? I don't think ever we would have expected that, but he's had a chance to mature, and if I could share an anecdote with you, Brandon, when Adam Gase got fired after the 20 season,
Yep.
he called me up, and I didn't have that kind of relationship with Adam. I never spoke to him. I didn't have a cell phone. Never spoke to him. He called me up after he was fired, and he pleaded with me to be kind and to be fair to Sam because he said we've ruined his career. Basically, it's essentially what he said. And I thought that was a very powerful moment, listening to Adam say that. And Adam now is obviously he's not in the league right now. I think he's dabbling with some high school football or something down in Florida, and he must have a smile on his face right now because I think that he recognized that there was some talent there with Sam, and this shouldn't be the end for Sam after those 3 years with the Jets. And so he really, in my mind, is a little bit validated, even though he wasn't able to in his 2 years with Sam, he was not able to make him better and make him into a proper starting quarterback.
I appreciate that story about Adam Gase, and I now want to tip my hat or tip my cap to him. And I think Sam should leave him 2 tickets at the Super Bowl because, again, you need someone to believe in you in this league. And the fact that he
Hmm.
called you out of the blue to tell you that, then I've got the utmost respect in the world for Adam Gase to do that. And let's go back to those 2 years at USC because when quarterbacks come out of certain programs, college programs, Mark, if you come from that Bama or that USC or that Ohio State type program, I'm a little hesitant on quarterbacks because of the weapons that they throw to on the outside. So do you think Sam did enough in that 2 years in his college career at USC to justify the Jets taking him third overall, or was that just too high?
If you look at him statistically, his second year he threw 13 picks, into 26 touchdown passes, which in college are those are pretty pedestrian numbers, for a guy that's going to be drafted that high. The problem with these situations are, and it happens in every draft, teams reach for quarterbacks. Quarterbacks, their stock goes up as the draft nears, and because that's the most important position, that's the one position everybody needs most. It's going to happen this draft. Everybody says obviously that the kid from Indiana is the only proper, worthy first round draft pick. But trust me, there'll be more quarterbacks in that first round taken. So I don't think it's fair for me to say whether he was warranted to take third or not. That's just the way it unfolded, and it always marries and matches up with teams' needs, and usually the teams that are drafting as high as the Jets were and the Browns were at that time are desperate for quarterback help, so they're going to reach. So yeah, at the end of the day, you look at Sam's numbers, particularly his senior year. He threw for a lot of yards, more than 4,000 yards. But, 26 touchdowns and 13 interceptions, not exactly, jumping off the page to me if I'm just looking at statistics.
Let's go back to that 2018 quarterback draft class and the quarterbacks that were actually selected in the first round. You got Baker Mayfield first, Darnold third, Josh Allen seventh, Josh Rosen 10th, and Lamar Jackson at 32. Where would you now rank Sam Darnold's career compared to those guys?
Obviously, Allen is first, even though, I mean, I get it. Sam's the first. Who would have thought that Sam be the first out of that group to get to the
Super Bowl.
Super Bowl?
Yeah.
Rosen, it turned out to be very much of a bust, and he was out pretty quickly of the league. I still would take Josh Allen over everybody, and that's no disrespect um, at all to Lamar, but Lamar would be second for me. Um, I think the Baker and Sam are I look at as pretty even to me.
Okay.
Even though Baker hasn't gotten there, to the big game yet. Baker, much like Sam, has resurrected his career after a real rocky start, and he's been a pretty damn productive quarterback down in Tampa. So I'd kind of put those guys, neck and neck a little bit. Now, if Sam goes and wins the Super Bowl, I guess I'd have to slip him a little bit ahead. And quite frankly, his numbers in the NFC Championship game were really, really incredible. I think the narrative on Sam is, and quite frankly, it's a narrative that I've kind of bought into to some degree, is that he's not the kind of guy that is putting his team on his back and is going to throw 3 or 4 touchdowns and sling it all over the place. And what did he do in the NFC Championship game? That's exactly what he did. He kind of
Yeah.
carried the Seahawks.
Yeah, he did.
So if he goes and does that in the Super Bowl, I mean, I'm not saying I'm not a believer in Sam at all, because I certainly am a believer. Um, but I'm fascinated to see how it unfolds in the Super Bowl against a very good New England defense. But yeah, I guess listen, you'd have to put Sam third in that group because of what he's done the last couple of years and where he is today. But I don't think Baker's far behind because of the way he resurrected his career too. As it turns out, that quarterback class, other than Rosen, turned out to be pretty damn good.
So since you take Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson over Sam Darnold, let's say the Jets drafted one of those guys instead of Sam Darnold, do you think they would have had success with the Jets, or at least more success than Sam those first couple of years?
That is a fascinating question. I'm not sure I could definitively answer. I feel like maybe with Lamar's athleticism, maybe he's and maybe the same thing with Josh. Maybe those guys are able to squeeze a little bit more out of the lemon, so or, the orange or whatever you want to call it. Really with the Jets, it is a lemon all the time, isn't it? Maybe they would have been able to do a little bit more where Sam needed a bit more support around him. Because I think those two guys obviously are otherworldly athletes. Not taking anything away from Sam, but that's just not his game. Um, yeah, I think perhaps they would have, but would they still be with the team now? Would they have led the Jets to success? I don't know. I mean, I'm still waiting for it's been a long time since we've seen anybody leave the Jets to success, right?
Yeah.
So. Not to beat up on the Jets, but I guess it's just kind of it's the season, isn't it?
Tis is the season. But I got one last question here. I got one. We can beat up on somebody else. Who looks worse, the Jets or the Vikings? Because Sam did win, what, 14 games in Minnesota last season. So which franchise looks worse for not keeping him?
I'm glad you asked that question because that answer is easy to me. The Jets get beaten up all the time, and I get it, but without question, and they get trolled, right? They're constantly trolled, and this is trolling season now because you got a lot of former Jets still playing, and Sam being at the top of that list. There is no question in my mind the Vikings should be slammed more than the Jets. Sam was a young quarterback that the Jets weren't able to put enough talent around and develop. Sam, what we really haven't talked about here a little, really, Brandon, is Sam's development year in San Francisco prior to Minnesota. That was literally like a lifetime clinic for him to be, coached by Shanahan, watched the way that Purdy developed there. I think that was probably the most important year of Sam's career. And he went to Minnesota. He had some talent around him. How the Vikings would move away from him, I get it. It did end well. He didn't play well in the playoffs. In a playoff loss, I should say, and didn't play well, I believe, in the last, late in the season there. But to put all the eggs in J.J. McCarthy's basket, who had no experience whatsoever, and has proven out not to be the quarterback that the Vikings thought he would be. To put all the eggs in JJ's basket and not bring Sam back, I was shocked, and they deserve much heavier of a slap on the wrist than the Jets do. I would say that without question.
And for that, I'll end this interview right now. We can end on a positive notes for the Jets right there. But yeah, I mean, it just goes to show people wrote Geno Smith off. He ain't right back though. Now you got this guy and the Sam Darnold that's leading the Seahawks to the Super Bowl. So again, I tell people all the time, Mark, I think we should redefine how we start before we start throwing that bust word out for quarterbacks, because they could thrive in different systems. So I think I think Sam Darnold is pleading that case right now. Mark, thanks. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, we have seen that. And the other thing that's kind of cool about this run of Sam's, and while we're talking about Sam, Brandon, is you will not. The Jet fan base is pretty bitter, as are well aware right now. They're angry and they deserve to be. But I don't think you'll find a Jet fan on the planet that is not rooting for Sam Darnold this weekend, or next weekend, I should say, and happy about the run he's been on, because he conducted himself with nothing but class, never made excuses when he was here with the Jets, and he's remained kind of the same guy. He might be a little bit boring in public, but he's remained the same guy, and I think he's become a really easy guy to root for, even for Jet fans who are desperate to be in this spot where he is right now.
He's got the last laugh for sure. It's like, who's seeing ghosts now? Mark, thanks for hopping on with us.